This is, today I am presenting my first budget presentation as mayor. Lucky Friday, Friday the 13th. I'm a preacher's kid. Jesus had 12 disciples, in him plus 1, 13, so 13 is good luck for me. So I want to thank you all for joining me here as I present the proposed 2023 fiscal year budget for the city of Rochester. You know, Bruce Springsteen also has a song that says, when it comes to luck, you make your own. And my team has really dug in during our first few months in office to plan an impactful upcoming fiscal year. I want to thank my budget director, Mike Burns, who will be joining me in this presentation, and to all the members of my senior leadership team whose vision and commitment are evident in the budget proposal we will deliver to City Council today. I also want to thank my esteemed colleagues on City Council, Council President Miguel Melendez, Finance Committee Chair Mitch Gruber, and all of our council members for the attention and hard work they will put in over the coming weeks as they consider this budget. I asked council for their budget priorities in January, and they gave me those priorities, and they will see those priorities reflected in our budget. But today I am filled with more optimism than I had on my first day of office. I am also filled with more gray hair in my head than I had the first day in office, as my son reminded me this morning. The budget I submit today is an expression of my vision and skills and abilities of our city team translated into tangible action. We are investing in Rochester, both for the long term and short term, because right now our residents are facing inflationary pressures and rising prices. In response to that, I am happy to announce that there is no increase in the tax levy. Budget Director Michael Burns will go into further detail on this topic, but at a time when people are paying double the amount for eggs, they can't find baby formula, I, in good conscience, could not increase our tax levy. Mike Burns will hit this, but the average homeowner will not see their taxes go up by more than 70 cents. Of course, the effects of the COVID pandemic continue to have an impact, so the American Rescue Plan Act is a key part of this budget. We will continue to leverage ARPA dollars to make targeted and transformational investments in our city. I cannot thank our federal representatives enough. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and Congressman Joe Morelli continue to make significant and powerful changes in Rochester. This American Rescue Plan has been a rescue for us in city. Our ARPA investments represent nearly half of the year-over-year spending increase reflected in our budget. They impact all of my administration's top priorities. Priority 1, public safety. We are investing in public safety. This is and will continue to be my top priority. I say it all the time. It's about prevention, intervention, and suppression. And it requires deliberate investments in prevention, intervention, and suppression programming and tactics. We are investing $8.4 million for violence prevention programs. This budget provides nearly $8.4 million in dedicated funding to the Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention Programs. That includes Pathways to Peace, the Office of Neighborhood Safety, the Peacemaker Fellowship Initiative, summer youth enrichment programming, and community contracts for complementary efforts under the Rochester Peace Collective. To improve public safety, we are investing in critical, new, full-time positions in the Crisis Intervention Services Unit, improved body-worn camera technology for the police department, and police and fire recruit classes to ensure staffing in both departments. We will have adequate staffing in both of those departments. These investments complement the investments in violence prevention intervention, and suppression from partners in government. In fact, County Executive Bello just yesterday announced a significant county investment in supporting public safety in the city. And we are thankful for the many ways our county continues to partner with us. That's new. You have not seen this level of participation between the county and city in a generation. And that partnership will continue. In addition to addressing public safety, we will strengthen neighborhoods by adding staff to our code enforcement and compliance teams, funding additional library staff, and adding resources to our centers to ensure that they remain stable, safe, and welcoming environments for our youth and families. And programs like Buy the Block will bring investments to neighborhoods that have been historically ignored. Through dedicated efforts, we will seek to reverse the trend of disinvestment that has left these areas behind and build optimism and hope instead. This work will align closely with creating equity, inclusion, and social justice, replacing redlining with greenlining, disinvestment with smart infusion of resources. To that end, this budget reflects our dedication to the recommendations of the Race Commission, with at least another $1 million in investments. This budget reflects our dedication to environmental equity by funding the forestry and ash tree programs to address the known disparity in tree covers across many city neighborhoods. We want to make sure that if you are on the east side or west side or in the northeast or northwest, that you have greenery, that you have coverage no matter where you go. Equity, inclusion, and social justice are visible throughout this budget, including in our significant investment in youth development. Every city child deserves the same chance as any other child in our region to attain a good career and a fulfilling, positive life. As some of you know, my first job, one of my first jobs that wasn't under the table, because I started working when I was like 12, was at Genesee Valley Ice Rink. And I want more kids to have opportunities like I did in these type of jobs, to get the feeling of earning a paycheck and being able to buy that new pair of sneakers that they're eyeing. But I also think that they should also invest some of it as well. So with that in mind, I have proposed increasing part-time and seasonal hourly wages for aquatics and recreation our center staffs. We also have budgeted for increased fellowship stipends for up to 250 young people, making these opportunities at City Hall even more equitable and competitive. As you know, I always talk about youth to work. This is part of putting our youth to work. And we've increased opportunities for summer enrichment through additional ARPA-funded spots, working with Victor Saunders' team on violence prevention. I've talked a lot about keeping kids busy and giving them opportunities to stay out of trouble and build productive experiences. But we can't just talk about it, we have to be about it. So I'm putting my money, our money, where our mouth is. It's taxpayer money. Because it all comes down to economic empowerment, another administration priority of mine, to ensure that people have economic know-how and resources they need to build their own successful futures. This budget funds the Financial Empowerment Center, which was just awarded another $100,000 grant a few weeks ago, as well as the Young Adult Manufacturing and Training Employment Program, and 2 MWB focus positions to offer compliance training and other support to businesses seeking state and federal contracts, ensuring that the city's residents have equal access to these opportunities. The county is also aligned with these, on board with these items, so this ensures scaling up and us getting a bigger bang for our buck. We will also continue to support the pilot for the Guaranteed Basic Income Project and fund a full-time administrator for the Kiva Rochester program. We are approaching close to $1 million in grants for that program, And for those of you that don't know what Kiva is, it offers zero interest for small business loans to entrepreneurs. We will continue to roll out our quest, our goal to increase business and entrepreneurship in this city. That helps people get to the middle class, and it helps ensure that people will be able to thrive and not just survive. All of these budget items I've outlined today, along with key investments in our center city, will address our commitment also to building a prosperous future, another one of our priorities. As I have met many U.S. mayors, and none of them can boast a lake, a river, a canal, a 96-foot waterfall, all within our city limits. Through the deliberate placemaking efforts set forth in our ROC 2034 comprehensive plan and a crucial partnership with the state of New York, we are investing in amazing projects that strengthen Rochester's position as a destination. Our Rock the Riverway program, more than 24 improvement efforts targeted around the Genesee River, includes rehabbing the Pont des Reines Bridge, continuing improvements along the riverbanks, and repairs at Brown's Race. But most notably this year, we'll invest in moving the Keystone Rock the Riverway project forward, and the work will finally begin to imagine our aqueduct. As you know, I am impatient, and this budget reflects the impatientness, if that is a word, of your mayor. All of this work is possible because of the support we receive from New York State. I want to give a special thanks to Governor Kathy Hochul, Vinny Esposito from the Empire State Development Team, and our entire state delegation who has brought home the bacon. I'd also like to thank all of our partners in government for their dedication to Rochester. Their efforts are enabling us to initiate, continue, or complete the projects reflected in this budget. We will improve our riverway, address blighted areas of our center city through downtown, revitalization initiatives, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, reconnect neighborhoods by beginning the planning for filling the Inner Loop North, and of course create one of the few state parks within an urban landscape in the country at High Falls. When I came into office in January, I asked for 2 big things from the state, or 3 big things. I wanted more aim aid. Still working on that. But I asked for the Inner Loop to be fully funded, which it was not. Now it is. And we made making High Falls State Park a priority. All those things are reflected in this budget and based upon the support that we got with the state of New York and the collaboration that has not happened in a generation that we have with our state delegation, as well as with our county. All of this investment ties together. Investments in public safety work to strengthen neighborhoods, which supports and is also impacted by our efforts to develop our youth. Of course, youth development is a part of economic empowerment. And all of the above promote equity, inclusion, and social justice. Overall, everything we are doing is building towards a prosperous future. I believe in Rochester, and I am working hard to make a difference in our great city. And I continue to ask for everyone's help. I am convinced that through collaboration and investing together, we will create limitless success. Now, he's got a CPA, our numbers guy. I'm going to bring up Director Mike Burns to share some more specific details about this budget, and then I will come back up. Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to each of you, and thank you for joining us. Before I provide an overview of our proposed budget, I'd like to start by thanking the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and my senior management team colleagues for their work in forming this budget. In working with this highly respected team, most of whom are either new to city government or to their current roles, I've appreciated their collaborative spirit, fair-minded approach in our conversations as we've worked through decisions, and strong knowledge of their areas of responsibility that each has demonstrated. Speaking of forming this budget, we would not be here today if it were not for my team in the Office of Management and Budget, who have steadfastly supported me in this work during my 81 days in the administration. So I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to our Assistant Director, Suzanne Warren, our Principal Staff Assistants, Sarah Boyce and Christina Heigenthaler, our team of analysts, Chavez Lewis, Emily Lohner, Joe Mastico, Josephus Tisdale, and my assistant, Yulia Sashinsky. I'd be remiss if I did not thank Elisa Sobrani of our print shop, whose invaluable work is evident in the printed version of our budget book. Our proposed 2022-23 budget calls for $627.4 million in spending, an increase of $55 million, or 9.6% over the 2021-22 amended budget of $572.4 million. Putting the 2022-23 proposed budget into context, almost half of the increase, $26.1 million, is funded with American Rescue Plan Act dollars. As the mayor just discussed, this budget invests in the administration's key priority areas and ensures all departments have the resources necessary to deliver for our residents in the administration's first year and beyond. From a revenue standpoint, I'll provide more of a breakdown in a moment, but as the mayor mentioned, our proposed budget contains no increase in the property tax levy. Let me be clear. We elected to hold the property tax levy flat this year, and let me emphasize, this year, as we acknowledge the current impact of rising fuel prices and inflation on city households. However, we are mindful of our reality, in that our ability to keep the property tax levy flat versus the need to increase it must be revisited annually through the lens of the current facts and circumstances of the year ahead. So we just talked about the levy, now we're going to talk a bit about the tax rate. With one of the strongest real estate markets in the country, our property values are increasing. The net impact to the typical homeowner and business is partially offset by the state-mandated tax shift, resulting in reductions of $9.66 and $129.02 to the typical homeowner and business on their respective tax bills. Also included on both homeowner and business tax bills are user fees associated with refuse, local works, and water. With regard to these user fees, the typical homeowner will see an increase of $10.36 on their tax bill, specifically for refuse and local works in response to increasing fuel prices and rising inflation. Fees associated with water will not increase. Putting further context around property taxes and user fees, the net impact to the typical homeowner of the tax shift and user fee increase is 70 cents. As a final word on fees, I should note that our proposed budget includes fee increases at the East End Garage to bring the rate structure at that garage in line with all other city-owned garages. Specifically, we are increasing the daily maximum rate from $8 to $10, and we're increasing the evening rate from a flat $2 to $2 per hour. And to be clear, no other rate changes at any of our other city-owned garages. I'd be remiss if I did not spend a few moments on sales tax revenue, as rising prices are affecting each of our households. Our proposed budget includes $187.2 million in sales tax revenue, an increase of 15.7% over the $161.8 million of sales tax revenue budgeted for in our amended 2021-22 budget. Though the future is difficult to predict, we believe that this estimate prudently reflects the reality that higher than normal rates of inflation and increased consumer spending will be with us into 2023. The city has a long-standing tradition of financial stewardship, and, bolstered by the continued strength of sales tax revenue, we expect to generate a surplus for the 2021-22 fiscal year once the books are closed. This will allow us to replenish the fund balance used in 2021-22 and to use fund balance of $18.9 million in our general fund to close the 2022-23 fiscal year budget gap, all while remaining well above the minimum required fund balance of 12.5% of general fund expenditures per city policy. We began our proposed budget development process with a $67.1 million all funds budget gap per the multi-year projection shown in our 2021-22 budget for fiscal 2022-23. We fully closed this gap and were able to fund investments in the administration's key priority areas. The budget gap I just mentioned was closed as the budget development process progressed, impacted mainly by the following relative to the multi-year projection as a starting point. Use of fund balance, as I just mentioned, accounting for the positive impact of current economic conditions on sales tax revenue, use of ARPA revenue replacement funds to close a projected parking fund deficit, to offset the loss of revenue associated with providing fire protection services to the West Brighton Fire District, and to offset inflationary increases in the areas of heat, light, power, and fuel. Those were all areas where we used ARPA revenue replacement to close the gap. Other changes in assumptions: we reduced current year cash capital and debt service while still funding essential projects. And we considered changes in personnel-related costs and costs associated with fringe benefits and other liabilities as we finalized the budget. And I should note that further information on how we close this gap can be found in the summary of all funds gap closure schedule that immediately follows the mayor's message in that section of the budget book. With regard to personnel, our proposed budget reflects a net increase of 126 full-time positions, or 4.6% above the 2021-22 amended budget. I think it's important to provide some context around certain areas where we saw an increase in headcount. Council Clerk's Office, 60 positions, including 54 of which are intended to fully staff the Police Accountability Board. And it's important to note, though their headcount is up, their year-over-year budget expense is unchanged, or virtually unchanged. 23 positions are ARPA funded or Race Commission recommended. And 33 positions constitute an investment in our administration's priorities, including the Mayor's Office in support of violence prevention, Neighborhood and Business Development, Department of Environmental Services and Law in support of our code enforcement and compliance initiatives to strengthen neighborhoods, and Department of Recreation and Human Services and Library in support of youth development and public safety. As you may be aware, the city was fortunate to be awarded $202.1 million in funding through the American Rescue Plan Act from the federal government. This funding is allowing us to accomplish transformational initiatives, including lead service line replacement and our Buy the Block initiative that the mayor mentioned earlier. More information regarding how we are using and plan to use these funds, which must be fully expended by December 31st, 2026, can be found at www.cityofrochester.gov/ARPA. Between now and the middle of June, City Council will hold public hearings on the proposed budget on May 23rd, 24th, and 31st, and Council will vote on the proposed budget at its June 14th meeting. The hearings and the June Council meeting will be televised on City 12 TV and can be viewed on Council's YouTube channel. With that, I will now turn it back over to Mayor Evans. Mayor?
Thank you. I want to thank Mike for his hard work on this budget. And I want to be clear, because the headline, sometimes I write the headline for you news folks. We are funding our priorities at a time when people are struggling fiscally, but the tax rate is still being held flat. So that, I believe, is great news for the residents of the city of Rochester. It is fiscally responsible because we are mindful of the challenges that our residents are facing, and it is what I call an investment budget. We are investing in the future. As I've outlined, we are making investments in each of our key priority areas to ensure that we are well positioned to deliver for the people of our great city. This is all about charting a prosperous future. But as Mike and many others have heard me say, we must take this at a year-by-year approach, because we operate in an environment where unforeseen things can and do and will occur. Whether it be with property taxes, new priorities, or unforeseen challenges, we will continue to flex as needed to remain responsive and also fiscally responsible. We are always thinking about the larger context. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us today as we present a budget that we believe will build a solid bridge to Rochester's future. For those of you in the media, Mike and his team will be available across the hall in our third floor conference room after we wrap up here to answer any questions that you may have. So again, I thank you all for coming here today. I want to thank my administration for all their hard work, all the members of my administration and their staffs who are here, and we look forward to a great summer. Thank you so much.